Welcome, everybody. We're so glad that you're here. My name is Ann Deely. I'm the Executive Director of Graylag Nature Preserve. But as you can see from the slideshow you just watched, there are many years of Graylag before it became a nature preserve. And we're here to celebrate that today as we celebrate Graylag's 75th anniversary. So I'm going to hand off the microphone to Susan Geib, who is one of the founding members of the founding family of Graylag, and she's going to tell you a little bit about Graylag over the years, about the Geib era. We'll hear about the Koozie time, about Carl's time here, and then about the nature preserve. When we're done here, we'll head on down to the court to dedicate that, and then we can have some lunch. But anyway, please join me in welcome Susan Geib.
Good morning, everyone. We're thrilled to have you here this morning. And I arrived at Graylag as a babe in arms a few days after I was born in Concord Hospital, and a month before Graylag opened for its first season in 1949. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the origin story of Graylag. And properly speaking, the origin story really begins with the Abenaki people who lived in this region before any Europeans came. So if we could take a minute to think about them and to think about the European settlers also who developed farms in this area, the sawmill way up on the Graylag property, the shingle mill down at Shingle Mill Brook, and all those people who came before. But Graylag as a camp started in the summer of 1946 when my dad, Fred Geib, was discharged from the Navy and went home to Long Island. And he knew one thing for certain at that point, and that was that he did not want to join his father's electrical contracting business. And he, because of his background in Boy Scouting, Eagle Scouting, trip leading, wilderness stuff, just really wanted to start a boys camp. And miraculously, and I don't know how this happened, but I am forever grateful, his parents said, okay. And they liquidated all of their assets, my grandfather's business, their house in Manhasset, and came up to Graylag. They assembled the initial property in the fall of 1946, just months after this idea surfaced. They built through the summer of 1947 and 48 and opened in the summer of 1949. So I'm going to turn it over to Tisha now, who will tell us about the Koozie family and its introduction to Graylag and furthering of Graylag.
It brings warm fuzzies to my heart to see you all here. And the plan for Graylag and membership and inclusivity, and I'm taking many pictures, and I'm going to tell my dad all about it. He's not able to be here now. He's 96. But around the dinner table, we talk a lot of Graylag stories. My favorite story, I could go on and on and on, but my favorite story is when he coached the Cincinnati Royals, who became the Kansas City Kings. They had a training camp here. So they had all these professional ball players come to Graylag, and Smitty, you know Smitty, he had to make all the bunk beds longer for these professional ball players, and they were in the dorm, in the Birches it's called now, and just there's many stories about all of that. I can't imagine that happening today with fancy hotels and whatever, but I love all his stories, and my family, Dad, back in those days everybody worked. There weren't the big salaries, so he had to have a summer job after the season, and he came with his bundle of fan mail. He says, I want to have a camp. So he came. He didn't have any money to pay at that time for Graylag, but he had his bag of mail, and that's how it all started with my family. And this was a beautiful setting, and the courts were built, and it became not just basketball, but all around camp. And my husband and I are living with Dad now the past year to help him out, and I'm his secretary, so he reads everything, but he can't do any writing anymore. So I answer all these people back, and they're still campers all the time who write letters and how this impacted their life, and so it's very heartwarming. And last few years I come to Graylag just by myself. I'm selfish, and I just spend 3 days, and I hike and I bond, and I have a feeling all of you are nature people, so you know what I mean with the spirituality and the connection you get to your inner being when you're in nature is always a blessing. So I couldn't have planned a better future for Graylag than what's happening now, and Carl is shining his energy down and loving all of us too. So thank you for all being here, and you get to be in this beautiful space. My dad's going to say a few words. I forgot. That's right. So he's...
Good morning. My name, as you've been told, is Bob Cousy. And frankly, if that is at all familiar to any of you, it probably means you've been receiving Social Security benefits for a couple of years now. So hello to all of you that are gathered at Graylag to celebrate two milestones: the 75th anniversary of its founding as a boys' camp and the dedication of the refurbished basketball court. So I am honored that it has been named, obviously, the Cousy Court, and I wish I could be there in person to share these memories with you. And now that Camp Graylag has become Graylag Nature Preserve, I'm so grateful its history as a camp is being preserved. We were in Pittsfield for 20 years under ideal conditions, as I said, and my family and I look back on those years with such positive thoughts and so many happy memories that I am just pleased for my needs, especially at this point in terms of my memories. They've provided my family and I with 20 of the happiest summers we've had. So I'm so honored and pleased to have this legacy. Anyway, everyone, have a wonderful day.
Hi, everyone. I'm Fran Berman. I am the president of the board of Graylag Nature Preserve, and I'm really delighted to welcome you on behalf of the board and the staff. This is a wonderful moment. And I would love to see a show of hands of who out there was involved with Camp Graylag in the camp years, either as a camper or a staffer, someone who came occasionally to play basketball on the courts. We have a few people here who have history that goes back to then. And some of you helped with building and maintaining the buildings too, so thank you. I know that our founder of Graylag Nature Preserve, Carl Wallman, would be delighted to see you here celebrating this day, and he'd be especially thrilled about the rededication of the basketball court. I wanted to tell you a little bit about Carl, and since some of you didn't know him and don't know his story, it's an interesting connection between him and basketball and Graylag and this place. Carl was born in New York in 1944. He was the son of Eastern European immigrants, and his parents came to this country with almost nothing, and they settled in New York City. His father got a job working as a day laborer, and then eventually owned his own business selling linoleum and installing linoleum for people. And over time, he saved up enough to start buying some of the dilapidated buildings in his area, fixing them up, renting them out, and really built a new life for his family. Carl was the recipient of that privilege that came with that, and he went to a private school in New York
And when he was a freshman, he was having trouble sort of finding his place in the world. He had an older brother who overshadowed him a bit, was a big science star, and Carl, it turned out, had a talent for basketball. And as a freshman, he got drafted to be on the varsity basketball team. Well, his social life took off, his self-confidence had a boost, and basketball became really, really important to Carl. And he continued that passion for basketball all through his life. Eventually, he ended up buying a farm near here in Northwood, and had a 25-year career there raising show cattle and breeding and raising Angus cattle, and was very successful. And then he sort of reached the end of that path, and while he was doing that, he really started to connect with the land and learn about the connections between the plants and the animals, and came to be very interested in how neighbors could work together around developing their land for the future. So when that period ended, he was looking around for his next phase, and this was 1995, and Graylag came on the market as a property. When Carl discovered Graylag, it was like that aha moment, like, this is where I'm supposed to be, because it combined a beautiful natural setting in a community that he already loved and basketball. It was just meant to be. So Carl moved here and started working on the property, fixing up some of the buildings. They had to remove some of the buildings that were in too much disrepair, changing the landscaping, introducing more native plants, which became one of his passions. And really, over time, he started furnishing the other cabins, inviting people to come stay, and then it became a little side business of people staying in the cabins, and he just really loved his favorite thing, I think, was seeing people gathered around the fire pit, sharing stories, getting to know each other, and connecting. And so I only met Carl in 2015, but I was very quickly pulled into the Graylag orbit, and Graylag, became an important part of my life as well. So as Carl aged, his health began to decline, and he realized that his days were limited, and he made a plan to turn this property that he loved into a forever preserve. He set about conserving it with Bear Paw local conservancy group, and then he also created a nonprofit, Graylag Nature Preserve, which took effect in 2019. And several of our board, most of our board is actually here today. If you could all just wave your hands around. So Carl, we have a wonderful board, and we are constantly inspired by the legacy of the Cousies, the Geibs, and the Wallmans in terms of carrying this place forward into the future. This is quite a moment. All right, well, I am going to close up this portion of our remarks and let you watch a little video about that was made to promote Camp Graylag back in the day. And following that, we're going to proceed down to the basketball court, if you're able, and we want to have a little dedication ceremony down there. Thank you.
There's one place in New England where basketball is the summer sport. It's at Bob Cousy's camp, Graylag, near Pittsfield, New Hampshire. The famed Boston Celtics basketball star is a man who knows how to combine business with pleasure. He has his small charges goggle-eyed at the way he can handle that ball. time for lessons, and you can bet that nobody cuts classes here. Bob has willing and apt pupils as he passes on what he has learned during his years as a star. He's famed for his long pass as he sets up shots for the boys. But what Cousy likes best, and that goes for the kids, is when everybody gangs up to try to stop one of the game's greatest dribblers. He could probably dribble all over Times Square during rush hour without the help of a traffic cop. Small try over 2 inches, and he won't get away with this. Or will he?
New England for the past 45 years, and it's housed at the Boston Garden, at the TD Garden. They have more than half a mile of exhibits celebrating sports in Boston and beyond. And Brian has been involved with the Sports Museum since 1988, but he's also a cartoonist, a writer, a sports historian, a military historian, consultant, reenactor, and washed-up hockey player. I got it. And he's authored several books, The Hartford Whalers, Hey America, It's Misfits Time, and Emotional Chaos, and he's co-author of The Boston Garden and The Bruins in Black and White.
And also Behind the Lens, Steve Babineau's photographs. Might be
Behind the Lens.
Oh, Steve
Okay.
Babineau's
Steve Babineau's.
photographer,
Okay. So please welcome Brian to share a few words about Bob Cousy and his legacy.
Richard Johnson couldn't be here, so okay, real close. Okay, hear me? Okay. Okay, this is what he wrote. I'll try to keep it concise. On behalf of the Sports Museum, its trustees and staff, it's a privilege for me to address you today as we honor the great Bob Cousy at the dedication of a court in his honor at Camp Graylag, where he presided as part owner and chief instructor for part of 3 decades. During his tenure at Graylag, Cousy tutored a generation of young gentlemen whose number include the late Larry Lucchino, former CEO of both Boston and Worcester Red Sox, who's also a proud member of Princeton's legendary Final Four team, along with Senator Bill Bradley. Lucchino is one of the hundreds of young men that trekked to Pittsfield, New Hampshire for the privilege of learning basketball fundamentals from the famed Houdini of the Harmwood for a bargain sum of $100 tuition for 10 days of training. All of this coming at a time when Cousy, though being the sport's highest paid player at $20,000 a season, was nearly like all of his colleagues in the need of requiring an off-season job to make ends meet. His tenure at Graylag contributed mightily to his coaching acumen, gaining him the experience which allowed him to serve as head coach of both the Boston College Eagles and the NBA Cincinnati Royals following his retirement from play in 1963. Pause. In 1956, in his 1956 profile of Cousy in Sports Illustrated, writer Herbert Warren Wind perfectly described the sportsman that graced the acres, whom we honor today with this dedication. Now we begin the quote. Cousy's greatness lies in the fact that he is fundamentally a playmaker, and it is legerdemain, far from being an empty showboat, is functional, solid basketball. Equipped with a fine sense of pattern, superb reflexes, he also had peripheral vision, which enabled him to see not only men in front of him, but a full 180-degree angle of action. Cousy can open up a seemingly clogged court by appearing to focus in one direction, simultaneously spotting a seemingly unreachable teammate in another area, and quickly turning him into a scoring threat with a whiplash pass. This is implicit deception in Cousy's straight basketball. It was an extra return here, okay. Which is the secret of any great player's success. It is only in these exceptional circumstances, when extra measures pay off soundly, that he resorts to his really fancy stuff. Well aware that his feats of manipulation draw the crowds and help keep the league healthy. Cousy will flash a few of his special effects near the end of a game in which the outcome is already surely decided if he previously had not had a chance to use them. Aside from this, he is all function. Now back away from the quote. May all who use this court draw inspiration from a sportsman that revelized his sport as both a champion, competitor, coach, and citizen.
Thank you. And now I'd like to invite Tisha Kuzi up to dedicate the court.
Such a proud moment. Oh, that's gorgeous. Bob Cousy Court, 2024, open to everyone for who knows how long in this crazy world, but Graylag's here, and the basketball court, and the peace that we're all feel. Hip hip hooray. That's gorgeous.
The formal part of our program, but before we head up for lunch, I just wanted to thank a few people. I wanted to thank our amazing dedicated staff, Executive Director Ann Deely, and Facilities Director Nick Bassett, who's over there.
Good job, Nick.
Yay, Nick. And also our 75th birthday committee members, Jerry Karen, who pretty much drove it along, and Susan Geib, and Dan Scheib. So thank you so much. It's this team of dedicated volunteers and staff who really keep Graylag going. And I just want to invite all of you, if you have not joined us as an organization, we welcome you to become Friends of Graylag. Our Friends of Graylag program lets you, either through a donation or through volunteer time, you get on special mailing lists. We have a few special events during the year that you're invited to, and we welcome your support. We also have upcoming programs. We have cabins that stay open through the winter. So we hope to see you all back here before long, and thank you so much for coming today.